Hi there, I'm Chef Bill at the Culinary Institute of America, and today I'm going to do something that's really terrifying for most home cooks. I'm going to bone out a chicken. It's not that big a deal, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable doing it 10 minutes from now after I'm all done with this demo. The first thing that I think is important is to recognize that anatomy is the same whether it's a chicken or whether it's you. So trying to understand what part of a chicken is what is a good idea. It might be a little easier if I tipped him up like this and had him sit on the edge of the plate with his cute little legs hanging over the end. Here's the breast. These are the arms. I've got shoulders, elbows, wrists, and hands. This then would be the neck, the chest, the back, and the legs, thigh, and lower leg. That helps a lot. Now, over here around the neck, what you're going to discover is what would be your collarbone, and in the case of a chicken, it is called the wishbone. All right, so let's get started. First thing I would do is I would take the wing tips off. All right, you can use these for wing recipes. You can put them in a pot of broth, but I want you to cut right there at what is the elbow. And there's a sweet spot in every joint where the knife should go right through. So I'll put that over here. Now I'll do it again. If I cut too far one way or too far the other, what you'll discover is that the knife will not go through, it just bumps into the bone. So move 1/8 of an inch one way or the other, and you'll find that sweet spot where the knife will slide right through the joint. Okay, so those are off. Now, we want to take the legs off of this chicken, separate the legs from the breast. I'm going to take this leg right here, and I'm going to pull it away from the breast just slightly so I can identify the skin between the leg and the breast. And I'm going to cut through that skin. Once I've done that, I can recognize that with the skin out of the way, it's easy to see exactly the anatomy of this bird. So I open the skin up, and there's a little crease way down there, and that crease is where the thigh joins the body. I'm going to take my knife, and I'm going to get right down in that crease, and I'm going to cut towards the bottom of the bird until my knife stops. And the reason it stops is that I bumped into the hip joint. Okay? So if I take this leg and I bend it back very, very easily, the hip opens up. You just saw it happen right there. Now, with the hip open, I can cut beyond the joint, and this is a subtlety, but it's worth it. Just on the other side of that joint is a little nugget of meat. It's a little round bump right there called the oyster. And the oyster is absolutely delicious. It's like a cross between white meat and dark meat. And the easy way to get it out is to take your knife and just cut it out. And now we have one leg taken off the bird. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So cut through the skin, and cut through the skin closer to the leg so that you leave some skin covering the breast. Cut through the skin. When you've opened it up, as I have here, and you see the little crease down there, put your knife in the crease and cut in at an angle towards the front of the bird, and then bend this leg back until the hip joint pops open. Cut beyond the joint, and immediately following the joint is where the oyster lives. Now, sometimes you can just brace your knife against there and peel the oyster out. There it is, right there. That little nugget of meat makes this all worthwhile. Usually the butchers keep them for themselves. All right, so now we have another leg that's come off. 2 legs. You can leave the leg exactly the way it is, or if you want to divide it into thigh and drumstick, take a look at this little line of fat right there. You see it right on the inside, a little line of fat. That's where the sweet spot is, so that your knife can separate these 2 pieces of meat. Now I have a thigh, and I have a drumstick. I'm going to do the same thing here. Look for that line of fat, and you should find that sweet spot. If it's not immediately apparent, you may have to move your knife an 1/8 of an inch one way or the other. And again, I have a thigh and a drumstick. It's worth, at this point, I think, taking these things and getting them off of the cutting board so that there's no clutter. You're dealing with sharp knives and it's just the right thing to do. All right, so what I have now is the chicken frame with the breasts still attached. As I said, right here around the neck is where the collarbone is. On a chicken, it's called a wishbone. So what I'm going to do is come in here on either side of the neck, and you can see the little remnant of the neck, take my knife and slide down the inside of this opening. Actually, what I'm doing is sliding down the inside of the wishbone. And then feel the wishbone with your finger and put your knife to the outside of the wishbone and cut down on both sides. And now what I've done is I've basically freed the wishbone. I don't know if you can see it. It's a pretty small bird. But the wishbone is free on both sides. And what I can do is grab that little wishbone and just take my knife and follow it back towards the breast. Just keep your knife right up against the bone. Follow it back towards the breast. Back, 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 back. And at some point, you'll reach a point where your knife will follow the bone and it will come together, and there's the wishbone. So I've taken it out. And there's a real good reason for taking it out, not just for good luck, but there's some meat that's hidden behind the wishbone. And unless you take it out, you will leave that meat behind. Okay, so the breasts are here, the collarbone or the wishbone is out. I'm going to trim the skin at the end of the breasts, just like that. And if you feel between the breast on each side, there's sort of a hard surface in there. You can close your eyes and just run your thumb along it. That is actually the keel bone, or on you it would be your sternum. So that's the breastbone. And once you know where it is, you can take your knife and cut on either side of that bone, first through the skin, and then through the meat, and ultimately you will land up against the ribs. Okay? So once you get to the point where you're up against the ribs, just peel that meat back a little bit. You can see the ribs now. I'm going to open it up so it's easier to see. And you can follow the bones and the ribs, leaving very little meat behind. You can just follow them around. Follow them, follow them, follow them. Just keep pulling the meat back. Pull it back. Be gentle with this. And little by little, you will open this up until it seems like it's stuck right there. And the reason that it's stuck is that we are at the inside of the shoulder joint. That's the inside of the shoulder joint right there. And again, I can find that sweet spot where my knife will slide right through the joint, and I have what's known as an airline breast, which is to say the chicken breast with this little piece of the wing attached. Other than that, this is completely boneless. There's just one little bone in there. This is a really nice option. Now, you can see on the inside exactly what happened. Here's the ribs, here's the sternum. This is part of the collarbone right here and the neck on the other side. I'm going to play the same game where I cut on the opposite side of the keel bone. I'll turn it around so it's easier for you to see. And I'm going to follow those bones all the way around the ribs. And sooner or later, I will get to exactly the same point where I'm stuck right there because the shoulder joint is holding it together. I cut right through that sweet spot. That goes away. This goes away. And I have a second chicken breast, a second airline breast. You may discover that there's a little bit of cleaning you need to do. Chicken breast and chicken breast. Extra skin, we'll cut that off as well. We'll show you exactly what a deconstructed chicken looks like. I've got chicken breast, chicken thigh, chicken leg, or drumstick. I guess it's more like that. The wings would have ultimately been over here, and in between all of it was the carcass, which now is ready to go into the stock pot and make a really delicious chicken soup at some point in the future. So I've showed you how to break down a whole chicken. It's pretty easy to do, but the work is not done yet. Chicken is a potentially hazardous ingredient, or the bacteria on chicken. So this board right here needs to be washed very, very well with soapy hot water. And then what I oftentimes do at home is take a little powdered cleanser and just scrub it one more time so it's nice and clean, rinse it off really well, dry it really well, and put away. So that's all there is to it. 10 short minutes and I broke down a whole chicken. Buying whole chicken is a great value. There is so much that you can do with this, and you're going to save a lot of money on your grocery bill.